Old Town Road rapper Lil Nas X has been charged with battery on a police officer after he was arrested and hospitalized.
He reportedly punched an officer twice in the face that morning, and that led to his arrest. Police say possible overdose. Lil Nas X is still behind bars at this time. His reps have not commented.
Yeah, that was at 5 in the morning, and he's obviously going through some type of episode of that, whether it's drug-induced or...
It's one thing to spark headlines when you're on top of the world, but it's something entirely different when those headlines feel more like warning signs than celebrations. Lil Nas X, the kid who turned memes into platinum plaques and controversy into chart dominance, is suddenly back in the conversation. But this time, it's not about a record-breaking hit or a viral stunt that sets the internet on fire. It's about confusion, whispers of label conflicts, scrapped projects, and a bold new move that has people wondering, has the internet's favorite disruptor finally hit a wall? Think about it. This is the same artist who went from buying a $30 beat online to holding the longest-running #1 song in Billboard history. He was untouchable, trolling critics while collecting plaques, breaking barriers in hip-hop, and making his own rules. But fame is fast, and the same shock factor that made him a star is now raising eyebrows. Fans are noticing a shift. The numbers are smaller, the rollouts feel riskier, and even Lil Nas himself seems to be second-guessing moves he once made without hesitation. So how does someone go from the absolute peak outsmarting the music industry, pushing culture forward, to this strange, quieter moment where speculation and controversy are louder than the music itself? To find out, we have to go back to the start, because every twist in this story, from country rap chaos to headline-grabbing stunts, was building to this point. Like and subscribe to Stars and Hypes for more, and let's continue. Before the controversies, before the viral stunts and the headlines, Lil Nas X was just Montero Hill, a kid from Atlanta trying to figure out what to do with his life. He dropped out of college, spent hours online, and ran a Nicki Minaj fan account under the alias Nas Maraj. It was here he sharpened a skill that would later define his career, understanding how the internet moves. He wasn't just watching culture, he was studying it. But studying memes and going viral is one thing. Turning that knowledge into a career is another. After a string of early songs that went nowhere, Lil Nas X bought a beat off YouTube for $30 from a Dutch producer named untouchable. That beat would become the foundation for a song that changed everything. Old Town Road. Nas had a plan from the start. He wasn't aiming for just a cool track, he wanted something that could live inside memes. Something shareable, quotable, and impossible to ignore. The strategy worked. He posted snippets, teased it on Twitter, and pushed it hard on a rising app most people weren't even paying attention to at the time: TikTok. The result? Chaos. Clips of kids dressed like cowboys, dance trends, parody videos, it all exploded. Old Town Road wasn't just a song, it was a movement. And the more people tried to define it, the bigger it got. Then came the moment that turned a viral hit into a cultural flashpoint. Billboard removed Old Town Road from the country charts, claiming it didn't fit the genre. Instantly the conversation shifted. Was it racism? Was it gatekeeping? Everyone suddenly had an opinion, and Lil Nas X was right in the center of the storm. For a new artist with no label machine behind him, it was a gift. He leaned into the controversy and the culture leaned back. Billy Ray Cyrus jumped on the remix, giving the track even more credibility. And from there, the numbers became staggering. Old Town Road shattered records, staying at #1 for an unprecedented 19 weeks. It beat Despacito. It beat Drake. It became a global phenomenon, and turned a college dropout with a Twitter account into one of the most recognizable names in music. Lil Nas X had done the impossible. He hacked the industry, but this was just the beginning, and he knew it. As the world chanted the hook, he was already planning what came next. Old Town Road made Lil Nas X a household name, but it was what came after that revealed the real blueprint. Most artists play it safe after a breakout hit, trying to prove they're serious. Lil Nas X did the opposite. He understood something few artists ever do in the age of the internet. Attention is everything, and personality matters as much as the music. One of the first big moves that showed who he really was came in 2019 when he publicly came out as gay. It was subtle at first, hints in his lyrics, a rainbow emoji on Twitter, but then he made it clear. For a young, black artist emerging in hip-hop and country spaces, this was groundbreaking. Fans and media celebrated him as a barrier breaker, but the hip-hop world is notoriously macho and not everyone welcomed the news. Some praised him for his courage, others quietly questioned whether he could maintain mainstream support. But Nas didn't flinch. Instead, he doubled down on being unapologetically himself. He cracked jokes about it, trolled his critics, and even used their comments to fuel more buzz. Twitter became his stage, TikTok his playground. He knew how to make headlines without waiting for a song to drop. He'd roast celebrities, make memes about himself, and turn hate into punchlines. It wasn't just music, it was performance art. At the same time, he kept proving he wasn't a one-hit wonder. Panini became another charting single, showing he could deliver catchy hooks without the cowboy hat. Then came Holiday, a futuristic Christmas anthem, and Rodeo, a collab with Cardi B. Each release had something unique: slick visuals, creative rollouts, and a heavy dose of internet humor. Even when a song didn't dominate like Old Town Road, it added to his brand as a creative chameleon. What set him apart was that he didn't just release music, he built moments. When other artists were struggling to figure out how to go viral, Nas was already steps ahead. He knew when to drop a snippet, when to fire off a sarcastic tweet, and when to play into a controversy just enough to stay trending. Every move felt calculated but also effortless. He was young, funny, and unpredictable. But the bigger the personality, the bigger the expectations. Critics began to wonder, was he a music star or just an internet personality who knew how to game the system? Some said the trolling was genius. Others said it was a distraction. The question of whether Lil Nas X was building a legacy or just stacking memes was always there, simmering under the surface. And that question would become even louder with his next chapter, one that pushed every boundary he could find. By the time 2020 rolled around, Lil Nas X had already proven he could make hits and keep people talking, but he also knew something else. Attention fades fast. The same internet that lifts you up can move on in a heartbeat. So when it came time to launch his next era, he didn't play it safe. He went bigger, louder, and riskier. The centerpiece was Montero, Call Me By Your Name, a song that already carried layers of meaning. It was catchy, intimate, and bold. But it wasn't just the music that grabbed people, it was the rollout. Nas teased snippets months before release, letting fans build hype. He dropped cryptic tweets, mysterious visuals, and then came the music video. 3.5 minutes of unapologetic, surreal storytelling. The video became a cultural moment almost instantly. Lil Nas X was climbing a pole to heaven, sliding down to hell, and giving the devil a lap dance before snapping his neck. It was provocative, playful, and impossible to ignore. Whether you loved it or hated it, you had to talk about it, that was the point. But Nas wasn't finished. Around the same time, he released a limited run of Nike sneakers dubbed the Satan Shoes, featuring pentagram imagery and claims of a drop of human blood in each sole. It was a marketing stunt meant to fuel the fire, and it worked. Conservative commentators, pastors, and parents across the country lost their minds. News outlets couldn't get enough of it. Nike even filed a lawsuit to distance themselves from the shoes, which only amplified the noise. The song itself shot to #1. For fans, it was another masterclass in trolling and artistry. For critics, it was proof that Nas was willing to provoke anyone if it kept him in the spotlight. And that's what made him so unpredictable. He wasn't afraid to mix vulnerability with shock value. He could release a heartfelt song about love and identity, then turn around and mock the outrage with memes the next day. But with each controversy came a new question. How far could he keep pushing before the shock factor stopped working? For some in the industry, there were warning signs. Rap purists complained he was more of a pop provocateur than a rapper. Parents worried about the influence on kids who once loved Old Town Road, and some peers began distancing themselves, unsure of what to make of the persona he was building. None of that seemed to matter at the time. Lil Nas X had successfully reinvented himself and proved that his debut wasn't a fluke. The Montero era showed he could control a news cycle, dominate charts, and polarize audiences all at once. But when you set the bar that high, the pressure to top yourself only grows. And soon that pressure would start to show. After Montero, Call Me By Your Name hit #1, it seemed like Lil Nas X could do no wrong. He had silenced doubters, grabbed headlines, and proved he wasn't just an internet novelty. And then he doubled down. The follow-up single, Industry Baby, teamed him up with Jack Harlow and gave fans another undeniable hit. The horns blared, the energy was high, and the video was everything you'd expect from Nas: funny, bold, and visually wild. But this wasn't just music anymore. The visuals and stunts were becoming bigger than the songs. Nas leaned into the spectacle, creating moments designed to go viral. The Industry Baby video, set in a fictional prison, featured choreographed dance scenes and unapologetically flamboyant themes that sparked endless conversation. For his fans, it was another sign of his creative fearlessness. For others, it was another reason to label him a troll or a provocateur. By now, he was a full-blown pop culture phenomenon. But with every headline came new pressure. His debut album, Montero, finally dropped in late 2021. And while it earned praise for its production and honesty, the numbers told a different story. It opened strong, over 100,000 first-week sales, but it was clear that nothing on the record could match the cultural explosion of Old Town Road or the controversy of Montero. The peaks were massive, but the valleys were visible. Even as he racked up platinum certifications, the narrative started to shift. Critics and peers wondered, was the music still driving the conversation, or was it just the stunts? Nas fed the curiosity with even more antics, like a tongue-in-cheek pregnancy photo shoot to promote his album. Social media ate it up, But behind the humor, some began to question whether the shock value was starting to feel routine. What made Nas so magnetic at first was unpredictability. But the more he had to deliver big moments, the more predictable those moments became. The playful trolling, the outrageous visuals, the clapbacks. They were still entertaining, but they were no longer surprising. And in an industry that feeds on novelty, that's a dangerous spot to be in. Still, you couldn't deny his ambition. Even with doubts swirling, he was everywhere. Award shows, late-night interviews, festivals. He was an artist clearly trying to stretch beyond the shadow of his debut hit. But as much as he tried to evolve, the question kept creeping back. How long could this balancing act last? For a while, it seemed like Lil Nas X had found the cheat code to modern fame. Mix smart marketing with viral instincts, add a little controversy, and watch the numbers climb. But by the end of 2022, the picture started to shift. It wasn't an obvious crash, there were no sudden cancellations or disasters, but something subtler, something harder to ignore. The shine was dimming. Fans were the first to sense it. They still loved Nas's humor, the clapbacks, the trolling, but the novelty was wearing thin. The pregnancy stunt for his Montero album was funny, but after the laugh came the question, was the spectacle getting louder than the music? When every rollout had to top the last, the line between bold and repetitive blurred. What once felt fearless began to look like a playbook. The numbers told a quieter story too. Songs were still streaming in the millions, numbers any new artist would kill for, but they weren't creating the cultural shockwaves they once did. Industry Baby was massive, but it felt like the final chapter of a winning streak rather than the start of something new. Tracks that followed did fine but didn't stick. There were fewer viral memes tied to the music itself and more tied to his persona. And for someone whose brand was built on surprise, familiarity was dangerous territory. Then came the commentary. Critics and fans started to separate Lil Nas X, the internet star, from Lil Nas X, the musician. Was he becoming more famous for being famous? Some peers began to whisper that he was leaning too heavily on trolling to stay relevant. Online comparisons popped up to other artists known for provocation more than music. Some were playful. Nas himself even joked about being a gay 6'9", but underneath was a real concern: was he running out of cards to play? And while Nas never shied away from addressing critics, the tone started to shift. In interviews, he talked about wanting respect, but feeling like certain corners of hip-hop didn't take him seriously. He insisted he was a rapper as well as a pop star, that he belonged in every space he stepped into. But when an artist has to explain their place, it's usually because they feel it being questioned. The culture, meanwhile, was moving fast. New sounds were emerging, new names were stealing the spotlight. Hip-hop and pop were full of fresh voices. Nas still had the charisma, but keeping up with an industry that never stops shifting is brutal. The problem wasn't that he failed. He was still performing, still charting, still making headlines. The air around him felt heavier. The magic of surprise was harder to find. It wasn't a fall, not yet. But for an artist whose career was built on momentum, even a pause felt like a warning sign. The audience that once couldn't get enough of him was starting to look elsewhere. And while Nas smiled through it, tweeting jokes and memes like nothing had changed, the pressure was building. He knew it, the label knew it, and soon everyone else would too. By mid-2025, the signs of strain had become more than subtle. Tracks like Hotbox were trickling into the charts instead of breaking them. The digital buzz that used to follow him like a shadow was fading. Rumors swirled about label drama and delayed projects. Was a new album really scrapped? Or was something deeper arcing behind the scenes? Then came the moment that shattered the grip even casual fans had on the story. On August 21st, around 4 a.m., startling footage surfaced. Lil Nas X, clad in only white underwear and cowboy boots, was wandering Ventura Boulevard in Studio City. Reports say he was muttering incoherently, placing a traffic cone on his head and telling a cameraman he was heading to a party. It was bizarre even for him, and alarmed dozens of neighbors. Minutes later, footage captured him completely nude, singing Nicki Minaj's verse from Monster while walking between cars. Witnesses started calling the police. When authorities arrived around 5:50 a.m., the scene escalated. According to law enforcement, he charged at officers and punched one in the face, not once but twice. That turned the encounter from odd to alarming, and he was arrested on suspicion of misdemeanor battery on a police officer. But the shockwave didn't stop there. Concerned for his well-being, responders took him to the hospital for evaluation of a possible overdose, though it was never confirmed whether substances or mental distress were to blame. After stabilization, he was booked around 11:22 a.m. and held at Van Nuys jail over the weekend, pending a court appearance on Monday. The reaction was immediate and seismic. Panic, confusion, curiosity, cruelty, all blurred together online. Was it a breakdown, a medical crisis, or the ultimate troll? Lil Nas X has never been accused of subtlety. His publicity stunts have always dared the world to blink, and yet even staunch defenders paused. This was more than a headline, it was a personal crisis on display. In the weeks before, his Instagram had become a cryptic canvas. He posted chaotic shots of his bedroom in disarray, laughed in a robe with cowboy boots, brandishing a tambourine. One post read, "Oh no, she gone mad, crazy, I tell you." It felt like someone wrestling with themselves. Then came the bombshell. Earlier this year, he'd revealed partial facial paralysis. Likely Bell's palsy, joking, "I'ma look funny for a little bit," even as he acknowledged the seriousness of the strain. All these threads wove into the same narrative, an artist at war with his own momentum, and layered over everything is the timing. He'd been teasing a new album, Dream Boy, and dropping snippets of tracks like a collaboration with Lil Jon. Was this his way of blowing the roof off again? The world had flipped from "has he gone too far" to maybe that was the point. But amid the spectacle, the deeper questions lingered. Was this escapade born out of pure creative chaos? Did the relentless pressure finally crack him? Or was it the silent soundtrack of his struggle with labels, health, and the music business? Here's what's certain. The artist who once held the internet's attention with high-concept videos and marketing alchemy is now forced to hold on to his story with raw, unfiltered reality. The story of Lil Nas X has always been one of extremes. A dropout turned internet scholar, he built a career on instincts most artists spend years trying to understand. He didn't just make hits, he hacked culture. He was the kid with a laptop who turned a $30 beat into the longest-running #1 single of all time. He was the bold young artist who came out in a genre that rarely embraces difference, and then doubled down with visuals and lyrics that dared you to look away. But 2025 feels like a turning point. The headlines have shifted, the numbers are smaller, the stunts that once sparked conversation now sometimes spark confusion. And with the recent arrest, bizarre footage of him half-dressed on a quiet LA street, followed by an altercation and hospitalization, the world saw a different version of Lil Nas X, vulnerable, erratic, human. Fans still laugh at his memes, but now there's worry under the humor. They see someone who's been carrying a heavy load for years, maybe heavier than anyone realized. This doesn't mean the curtain has fallen. If anything, the unpredictability that made him famous could be his way forward. For all the drama, Lil Nas X has always been more than a headline. Behind the trolling and the spectacle, there's an artist who cares about craft, someone who studies trends, plays with genre, and knows exactly how to make people feel something, whether it's joy, outrage, or curiosity. The question is whether he can channel the turbulence around him into something bigger than the noise. The industry isn't kind to pauses. Every quiet moment feels like a risk, and the world of pop and hip-hop moves on without waiting. But sometimes pressure produces the sharpest art. We've seen it before, artists pushed to the edge, come back with work that defines an era. Could the chaos of 2025 be the messy, necessary moment before Lil Nas X's next reinvention? The challenges ahead are real. He'll need to rebuild trust, not just with his label and the media, but with a public that's seen almost every trick in the book. He'll have to create without relying solely on shock, without letting fear of failure creep in. And perhaps most importantly, he'll need to find joy in the process again, to make music not because it's expected, but because it says something new. If history tells us anything, it's that Lil Nas X thrives when counted out. The same kid who climbed to the top of the charts from a bedroom in Atlanta knows how to use doubt as fuel. Whether this latest storm is a detour or a downfall is something only time will tell. But one thing is certain, people are watching and curiosity is still on his side. Maybe the next chapter won't be about trolling or controversy. Maybe it'll be about proving that behind the memes and viral moments, there's an artist with something to say, one who's ready to surprise the world all over again. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to Stars and Hype so you don't miss what's coming next. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how things will continue in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care and have a great day.